Round of applause. Of course, with my permission, right? Secondly, everyone says, Fahmi, why aren't you married? Ladies and gentlemen, this is my other wife. We argue so much. I am serious. The amount of stuff. And creative stuff, the idea level is unseen. It's untangible. So people don't know where you're coming from or where he's coming from. So we need to argue outside in to meet in the middle, rather than fighting in the middle, going out. So that's a whole other level. And luckily for us, we're on the same wavelength and we're result orientated. So that's an amazing happens together story of Filip and I. Wifey? Hi.
Yes,
no, I'm
yes,
kidding.
yes.
I'm kidding. He's not a wifey. I'm the wife.
Ah, right.
Right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, Filip Keunen is going to be talking about amazing stuff that has happened in history. Be enlightened, be informed. Filip, the mic's yours.
Well, thank you. When Fahmi told me that the team would be tonight, Amazing Happens Together, I tried to look a little bit about how amazing things happen and why they happen especially. So there is some kind of a chemistry which makes that people, when they come together, things happen. And apparently there is not... it cannot be planned. I mean, like the Just Jam sessions spoke and everything like that. You start with something small and the consequences turn out to be much bigger, and they turn out to be unforeseen circumstances that make it actually big. So I kind of found two different ways in which amazing things can happen. First of all is like all the ingredients are already present, but the time is not right, and then when the time is ripe, something amazing happens. Like, for example, if you take the iPhone, there was internet, there was a telephone, there was everything, but the fact that they combined it all together in a very good interface made that it became super popular. There was a need for that. There are other things as well. I mean, like, for example, there's one picture here, it's the first steam engine. And that thing was invented in the 1700s, and what it did is it pumped water from a mine out. It was completely inefficient. Sorry, it was right. It was incredibly inefficient, and it took actually 200 years before somebody figured out that if you put wheels under it, you can actually make it move. But in the meantime, the conditions in which the conditions changed. They put the steam machine out of the coal mine. They started to make it work for the textile industry. It made from Britain the biggest industrial power. And because of that, when the time was ready, it started to make trains and everything like that. Another thing which, so this is one way, but much more interesting is people who kind of wanted to invent something and came up with something completely different. Like, for example, there was a chemist, and he was trying to make a product against malaria. He was trying to make artificial quinine, which basically helps you again, which is mostly famous from one of the ingredients of tonic. So the gin tonic, which was the remedy against malaria. He failed miserably, and he ended up with like some kind of a purple smurry, and that purple smurry became the first artificial dye, and it's the color mauve. It was the color purple is invented like that. So now you could you can keep drinking tonic, but you can also dress in mauve. Another one which is very famous is an engineer at 3M who basically had to make a very strong glue for the aerospace industry, and he failed miserable. He came up with like a very, very soft glue, but which stick to everything. He tried to sell it to his bosses and everything like that as as something for billboards. Nobody was interested, and the idea went to the side until a colleague of him working in the same laboratory who was singing in a choir, had an enormous problem because every time the little notes in his choir book would fall out. And he thought, okay, well, if I stick this glue to a piece of paper, it won't fall out. So he was very happy, but the bosses of 3M were not convinced. But because they believed so much in the idea, they gave samples to everybody. And because they didn't have paper, they used scrap paper, which was yellow. So all these sample things became a huge success, and it got commercialized. And that's the reason actually why it's yellow. Because nobody believed in it. Good, what else? Oh, it goes quick. Now, another thing, when I was making this campaign with Fami, we were talking about what are the amazing things which happen when people come together. And one of these amazing things is when the tropical storm Gonu hit Oman. Everybody was kind of affected, but everybody started to help each other. We all came together as a nation, and also mainly thanks to telecom. Mainly thanks to the fact that we could telephone everybody, that there was a network coverage, that we could see who was in a bad state, who needed help, who didn't need help. So in that sense, I mean, like in this modern times, and that was still pre much the smartphone, we kind of come together through it with social media. I mean, the world hasn't stood still ever since. I mean, social media are becoming more and more important in this world, and now these days the whole world has become one little village. I mean, everybody is connected to everybody through history. We always got the space between people always got smaller and smaller and smaller. Like now, if something happens, in an instant we know what is happening and how it is happening, and also in that sense. It becomes our main media part, and with that great thing, we don't follow anybody anymore. We are influencer and influence at the same time. I mean, like, so it's really important, I think, somehow, that we take some responsibility of what we post on the internet, and that we kind of are a little bit critical of what is posted. I mean, like, this is one thing which I found, which I thought was incredibly funny, and you find lots of quotes and everything like that on the internet of accredited to people who can't even have it or come. Anyway, I thought that was extremely funny, but I'm almost getting to the end. So the last thing I wanted to say is basically now with social media, we are really very much close together. We are, how should I put this? With great power comes great responsibility. I mean, if we post something, you in the car industry, you at Omantel, Fami, there is always a lot of people listening to you, and so you have a lot of influence in it. So I think there should be, you should be very aware of that your words or your post is not just simply your post, but you can make people think, you can make things change. And that's why it's very important, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. I'm kind of done.
That was the worst ending I have ever seen.
Well, yeah.
My mic, please. Thank you very much, Philip.
Please.
That worked very well. What he's trying to say is, he deserves a clap. What he's trying to say is, people are getting famous because you people are making stupid people famous. That's what he's trying to say. But amazing happens to get on social media because of you guys and them, positive or negative.
It's both. I mean, you have it's like the Star Wars thing. You can go for the dark side, or you can go for the good side. You know, like you have to choose, and the dark side is very strong.
That's Philip's conclusion. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers.
Appreciate it.